1 minute left. 1 minute.
The headbutt from Bobo Brazil. Brazil levels past the headbutt. He's on top.
His name once filled arenas, but today, Bobo Brazil's legacy is nearly forgotten. He was a trailblazer who broke racial barriers in professional wrestling and opened doors for countless others. Yet when he passed away, the world barely noticed. How did one of wrestling's most important pioneers fade into silence? In this video, we uncover the story of his rise, his quiet final years, and why Bobo Brazil's impact deserves to be remembered. In January 1998, Bobo Brazil passed away quietly in his hometown of Benton Harbor, Michigan. He had been suffering from a series of strokes, and at 73 years old, his body finally gave out. There were no massive televised tributes or crowded memorials like we sometimes see for wrestling legends today. Instead, Bobo's death was marked with a subtle respect from those who remembered the giant man who once stood tall as a groundbreaking hero in professional wrestling. After his wrestling career ended, Bobo Brazil faded from the public eye. Unlike many wrestlers who struggle with life after the ring or cling to the spotlight, Bobo chose a quieter path. He didn't chase fame or controversy. Instead, he returned home to live a peaceful life, running a small restaurant and spending time with his family away from the bright lights and roaring crowds. His once booming presence in arenas across America was replaced by the calm of small-town living. This retreat into obscurity might seem surprising given how important Bobo Brazil was to wrestling's history, but it was also a reflection of his character. Bobo was never flashy or attention-seeking. His power was quiet, his confidence steady. So while younger generations of fans may not know his name well, those who do understand that he was a pioneer. His story is one of breaking barriers, standing tall in the face of racism, and changing the face of wrestling forever. Bobo Brazil was born Houston Harris in 1924 in Little Rock, Arkansas, but he grew up in Benton Harbor, Michigan. From a young age, he was a big and strong boy, eventually growing into a towering 6 feet 6 inches and weighing over 270 pounds, an imposing figure in any room. Before he ever stepped into a wrestling ring, Bobo played baseball in the Negro Leagues, a professional league for African-American players at a time when baseball was still segregated. His athletic talents were undeniable, but professional sports offered limited opportunities for black men during those years. His introduction to wrestling came in the late 1940s when a wrestler named Joe Savoldi spotted him and saw potential. Savoldi encouraged Houston Harris to train as a wrestler, and soon he was working hard to learn the craft. He debuted in 1951 under a different name, but it wasn't until he adopted the ring name Bobo Brazil that his career really took off. The name was catchy and memorable, perfect for a wrestler who was about to change the industry. The world of wrestling in the 1950s was very different from today. It was deeply segregated, with black wrestlers often limited to competing only against other black wrestlers and rarely given top billing or serious storylines. But Bobo Brazil refused to be boxed in by those limits. He was one of the first black wrestlers to regularly face white opponents and became one of the first to be booked as a main event star against them. His strength, skill, and dignified presence helped him cross those racial boundaries in a sport that was slow to change. Bobo's wrestling style was straightforward but effective. He wasn't flashy or theatrical in the way many wrestlers are today. Instead, he was powerful and steady, using his size and strength to dominate opponents. His signature move was the Coco Butt, a forceful headbutt that was both feared and respected. It became his calling card and helped build his reputation as a tough competitor. He was also known for his calm and quiet demeanor. Unlike many wrestlers who played exaggerated characters or embraced stereotypes, Bobo simply wrestled as himself, a proud black man who commanded respect in the ring. This approach resonated with fans of all races, making him a beloved figure. His matches often drew huge crowds, and he was a mainstay in territories like Detroit, where wrestling was incredibly popular. One of the most famous chapters of Bobo Brazil's career was his long rivalry with the Sheik, another legendary figure in wrestling. Their feud was intense and brutal, captivating audiences and helping to define the wrestling scene in Detroit during the 1960s. The Sheik played the villain perfectly, while Bobo was the heroic figure fans wanted to see triumph. These matches were often violent and dramatic, blending athleticism with storytelling in a way that wrestling fans still appreciate today. In 1962, Bobo came very close to making history on the biggest stage. He defeated Buddy Rogers for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in Newark, New Jersey. However, the victory was short-lived. Officials reversed the decision, citing an injury to Rogers and refusing to recognize Bobo as champion. Many believe that racial prejudice played a part in this decision, as it would have been a major milestone to officially crown the first black world champion in wrestling history. Though the official records don't recognize him as champion, Many fans and historians argue that Bobo Brazil truly earned that title. Despite the setback, Bobo continued to rack up championships across various territories. He held the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship multiple times and was a respected main eventer for decades. His presence in the wrestling world was a symbol of change. He was breaking down racial barriers without needing to say a word. In the 1970s, as wrestling became more organized under the National Wrestling Alliance and the WWF, Bobo Brazil's career continued to thrive. He wrestled for the WWF starting in 1970, facing off against stars like Gorilla Monsoon, Spiros Arion, and Bruno Sammartino. Though he was past his prime years, Bobo was still a formidable force, and Vince McMahon Sr. made sure to treat him with respect, recognizing the path Bobo had paved. By the early 1980s, Bobo began to reduce his wrestling schedule. The business was changing rapidly, with new stars and new styles emerging. Still, Bobo remained an important figure, occasionally wrestling in special events or making appearances as a respected veteran. His legacy had already been firmly established. In 1994, the WWF finally honored Bobo Brazil's pioneering contributions by inducting him into their Hall of Fame. This recognition was significant because it publicly acknowledged the role he played in breaking racial barriers within professional wrestling. While Bobo accepted the honor with humility, many felt it was overdue. He wasn't the type to demand attention, but the wrestling world needed to remember what he had done. After the Hall of Fame induction, Bobo largely stayed out of the spotlight. He preferred a quiet life in Michigan, far from the drama and flash of the wrestling business. He owned and operated a small restaurant and spent his days with family and close friends. In this way, Bobo Brazil's story is one of humility as much as greatness. His death in 1998 reminded wrestling fans of a true pioneer who had quietly changed the game. While his name might not be as frequently mentioned today as some other wrestling legends, his influence is undeniable. Bobo Brazil helped open doors for countless African-American wrestlers who came after him, from Junkyard Dog to Ron Simmons and beyond. Wrestling today is more diverse than ever, with black wrestlers holding world championships regularly and headlining major shows worldwide. But it's important to remember the path Bobo Brazil blazed. He was the first to prove that race didn't define a wrestler's worth in the ring. He did it with dignity and strength, never compromising his character to fit outdated stereotypes. In 2012, WWE honored Bobo Brazil again by including him in the Hall of Fame's Legacy Wing, which celebrates pioneers who helped shape professional wrestling's early years. It was a quiet acknowledgement, but fitting for a man who never sought the spotlight but always earned respect. Bobo Brazil's story is a reminder that legends don't always need to be loud or flashy. Sometimes their impact is felt quietly but deeply, shaping the future for others to follow. His life and career stand as a testament to perseverance, dignity, and breaking barriers, qualities that every wrestling fan should remember. Though time may have dimmed his name for some, Bobo Brazil remains a true legend, a forgotten hero who deserves to be celebrated not just for what he did inside the ring, but for what he stood for outside of it. His legacy continues every time a wrestler of color steps into the ring and fights to be seen as more than just a stereotype. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an update. Also, drop a comment below and let us know who you want us to cover next. We'll see you in the next one.